All right. If our entrepreneurial friends who are watching, listening, or thinking about starting a company or are thinking about really trying to reach more customers, what is your advice to begin the process of really knowing who your customers are? It sounds so fundamental, but it's not that easy.
To focus on a singular person or persona.
Oh, really?
When we created Go, we went through this exercise. I think I might have mentioned on this podcast before, but we were really looking at who, if we had to sell this to one person, what does that person look like? And you can do like a thought experiment even and imagine that person, right?
Sell the beer to one person.
So, yeah, sell the NA beer. So I created this persona, and the persona was exactly like me. It was like a 40-year-old at the time-ish, 40-ish, drives a truck,
Right.
Yeah, has a couple kids, just wants to be healthier. And then you think about, okay, well, how do you market to that person? And it all starts with how do you solve their problem? Because as marketers, we always want to say, and we're guilty of this too, and in some aspects we do it like on the website for credibility, but at the end of the day, it's what's in it for the customer, not what's in it for us. Like, for example, like if we're like, we're the fastest growing brewery, that's like when I was in the auto business, a car dealer saying, we're the fastest growing car dealer. It doesn't mean much, right? It gives a little bit of credibility. It's like, maybe that implies that you have a large selection. Maybe that implies that, hey, we've been around a little bit and you must have safety protocols and quality standards, you know what I mean, without saying that. So that's all important. But really at the end of the day, it's like, what's in it for them? How is it going to help with their life? Well, if you don't have an ideal customer, like who are you talking to? Like who are you helping? And how are you helping them?
So how do you go from, and I'm going to tease you a little bit here, the singularity of Joe Chura is our customer versus a TAM of 8 billion people, you know, like how do you narrow in on, all right, there's a lot of Joe Churas out there. There's a lot of guys like me, and I think that they would also like this. I know that person versus is that going to be enough to sustain a business or grow a business? Like, but NA is not for everybody. Or is it?
Yeah, I mean, really the ideal target market for us was like, yes, I was all persona in there, but that doesn't mean like I'm only targeting like people that are 43 years old. You know what I mean? Right. I knew that just based on data from the space that the sweet spot is going to be 35 to 54. That was at least the general target market, and that proved
that's what you thought when you started.
Yeah,
and it's proved to be true.
Ish, yeah. Okay. I knew it was going to. I mean, if you think about it logically, like if you're in your 20s, you're probably not drinking a ton of NA. I mean, some people are for sure, but again, this is where like some of the people trap comes in.
Right.
Some of the people do everything, but you know what I mean. You can't like focus on that. So you have to think about, okay, who is generally your target market? So that's the target market. But there's plenty of 6-year-olds that drink our beer. And we actually run into technology challenges and we try to make things as easy as possible because we have a beer club and like maybe they have a hard time logging in. So we rebuilt that whole experience because you have a lot of people that count on that. You don't want to create friction there. So the goal is really to understand what that TAM is. Now, if my TAM was so small, but obviously like a white male in their 40s, there's enough of them in the world to be able to have a really good business. So the other side of that is like you know it's going to spread beyond that, right?
Right.
Like it's not like that's the only person that's going to buy your product. So then, but why is that important? Because you also have to think about like what's the branding going to look like? How's it going to resonate? Do they care about like storytelling? That's the other thing we thought about is like how do we differentiate ourselves? And at the time, like I had this podcast in a different form.
Sure.
And I was telling stories like crazy. And I was telling stories and exposing people that weren't necessarily like, you know, celebrities, but they had amazing stories of overcoming adversity. And I was like, if we can tell those stories through the beer, that can be pretty powerful. So literally like from the first kind of presentation that I like internally created, it was about storytelling, and that was the white space we were going after.
There's something really interesting there because you were just talking about how businesses will create a product or a service to solve a problem, right? Which I think is different enough from what are the stories that our customers are telling about themselves, right? The problem is really narrowly focused of, I don't define myself by the problems I have, right? I don't associate only with the people who have the kinds of problems that I have. Like that might be true to some extent, but it's kind of the stories that we're telling that opens it up more in terms of kind of this is who we are. So did more of those stories kind of then come out and get you into like, oh, these stories about this person's ultramarathon experience really resonate. Our people must kind of, whether it's being into ultramarathons or into things like ultramarathons, that should be a space we pay attention to.
Yeah, it was people that, I mean, that's where the name Go came from, is people that no matter what they were doing, they were taking action in their life. And I wanted to tell stories about that. Like a lot of our beers, if you go on the website, you look up Sunshine State, you'll see that's named after my friend Sarah, who had stage 2 cancer at the time. And she found out when she got a DNF at an Ironman in, I think it was in Texas. And then came back, went through chemo, all the treatments, was just really depressed. And she's like, screw this, I'm going to take control of my life. And then started training and then ended up a year later, not only competing, but winning her age group in the Ironman in Florida, which is why it's called Sunshine State. It's state of mind, and that's where it happened. So it's just one example of like, okay, she has this like, let's call it a go mentality of like, I'm not going to let shit take me down. Like I'm going to go after it. And that could apply to like way more than sports.
Sure.
And that's what this podcast is about, honestly. Like I wanted it to be more than athletics. So it's about go. It's let's go as an entrepreneur. And quite frankly, like a benefit of having this podcast is an extension of what Go Brewing is, and that is taking action.
Do you think of that group of people, let's just call them action takers, is it a niche market? Or do you approach it as like everybody can be if they're invited into it? Is it like...
I think everyone can be. It's just a matter of like, okay, it's do you want to be? Like when someone says, I can't run a marathon, you know I run with a person that doesn't have legs. You can run a marathon. Do you want to?
Right.
Totally get it if you don't want to.
Right. Do
you want to make the most of your life, whatever that is? And success doesn't equal happiness per se.
Sure.
But like if you want to just like leave this life with exhausting your full potential, every human qualifies for that. Like if in fact that's what you want, you can do it. Anyone can do things. It's just a matter of like, do you want to do it? And Go is for the people that want to do it. I think that might be the difference, or to get them to see what is possible, to say like, I can do this.
Tie that back to, and I don't want to rehash the whole story, and people can go back and listen to that episode of talking about how you realized that the NA tap room here was being exclusionary by not having beer. And I want to challenge this a little bit in terms of the people that might not be interested in always kind of taking the action and doing the thing, that feel pretty good about what they're doing, and it's not like a pressure thing for them. Like, are they excluded in some kind of way? And what I'm getting at here is like, how do you start to open up the market to those people?
I would say most of those people are drinking NA for a reason. So they're going through their own challenges, right? And they're taking action to improve their life. So they might not be through creating a business or through some physical endurance race. It could be, hey, I'm taking the steps to make the most of my life. Yeah. And so I think that's a really good point, and that's what I'm trying to like push out there in the world, because like if you look on Instagram, like it's a lot of athletic stuff, it's a lot of like going after it. This podcast is a lot of business and entrepreneurship, but there's a whole spectrum of people that just like want to be healthier, and you probably drinking NA because you want to be healthier, or you just like the taste of beer. Most people, I think, fall into that spectrum. So that's by targeting and having a great product and great stories, it can appeal to just really anyone in that matter, but that doesn't mean our marketing's to everyone. Because the point that like I want to make is like, if you're marketing to everyone, you're marketing to no one. Right? So like as we're thinking about like a new product we're launching, we have to be really thoughtful. We can't be like, this is a beer for everyone. Yeah, okay, well, this is a car for everyone. Yeah, of course, everyone can drive a car. It has 4 wheels. Yes, true. But like, who's it for? Who's the ideal audience? And how you get through that, maybe we could talk about next episode. Yeah. How do you frame that in a way where you can actually take action on it and make it meaningful to that person on the other side to feel like, yeah, I really want to be a part of that brand. And we've all felt it. Yep. We've all felt connections with brands. I see it all the time. You go to the website, you're like, yeah, I feel connected. Like whatever it's doing to me, it's pulling me in. Yeah. And that's what you want.
I think this is the thing that is most inherently interesting about the business of this business, that the NA space is so defined still by what it's not.
I know.
You know?
I want to get rid of the word non in the non-alcoholic. Yeah. Maybe we can brainstorm ideas.
All right. We'll dive into that more next week. In the meantime, everybody go take some action.